This program is presented by Community Television. A simulcast can be found on WRFP-LP 101.9 FM.
Welcome to the Chippewa Valley Sustainable Future Festival. Joe Maurer presenting Solar Energy in the Midwest, Precedents, Economics, and Feasibility.
My name is Joe Maurer. Hi, how are you? And I work with Next Step Energy as a site assessor and designer. And I'm here to talk about solar installations. You can go to the next slide. And specifically why we do them. And for many people, there are environmental reasons, there's energy independence, there's also economic reasons. And I guess I want to touch on all of those. And my talk is structured so you can interrupt me at any time and ask me a question about something. The first one has 9.8 kilowatt solar electric. It's in Colby, Wisconsin. I've tried to include precedents so we can see how solar has actually performed over the last few years in Wisconsin. And with this precedent, why would you do this? Why would you put solar on your house? Any ideas? What would make you want to do solar?
Save on energy.
Yeah, save on energy, right? Bob?
Well, I'm obviously biased here because I love solar energy, but for me, the real reason for doing this, you have a house here. The house would cost, say it's $100,000. You put a solar panel and a solar power system on your house. You just increase the value of your home because you can power your own house. You don't need the utility grid to do it. Not that there's anything bad about utility grid, but you just increase the value of your house. It adds value to your house.
Right.
So you're getting two things. You have a system that's going to last for over 30 years. And there was a woman who I don't know. Her name is Jan Erdman, though. She's had solar power on her home since 1980. And she said, it's still working. And I said, what can you say? What other appliance can you think of that works 30 years after? And she said, I haven't had a problem ever with it. So that's why, for me, that's why it's important.
So I'm going to just touch on a few reasons why it's important to me too. And one of them is diversification of energy. You can go to the next slide. Right now, most of our energy, those bubbles draw the map of the United States, and they represent coal plants. That's the scale of coal plants. The majority of our energy comes from coal. So when we flip a white light switch, we're burning coal. It's easy to forget sometimes. And this pie chart over on the right, if you hit the next button, Bob, thank you, shows that natural gas is another source of our electrical energy, electric power. Next, nuclear. Next. And then those tiny dots were so small that I had to draw arrows to point to where they are for solar. And you can see they're somewhere out on the coast, west coast. Biomass and wind make up the other part of renewable energy. I guess some people consider hydro. In some cases, I suppose it is. So it's a small piece of the pie right now, and it's fun to be involved in things that are that actually could use more diversification, because that's what America's about anyway, being diverse. If you go to the next one, please. So here's our diverse energy right now, with a very small part of it being renewables. You could also argue that renewable energy gives us more security in our country because we don't have to drill in foreign countries. Next. Solar's been picked on a little bit for its subsidies. And as you can see, it's actually another small piece of the pie. Historically, if you go to the next one, solar's really only seen subsidy since 1994. They did get it in the during the Carter administration too for a short period of time. But oil and gas, 1918 to 2009, nuclear, 47 to 99, biofuels, and so on. Yes, Bob?
I just wanted to mention that nuclear power subsidies, if they weren't there, there wouldn't be investors putting money into nuclear power. which means that you can't make money off of nuclear power right now. And also, what they're not they're not banking on this, or they're not counting this, is that there's a huge cost for the storage of the waste, which costs taxpayers billions of dollars. I'm done.
Okay.
Sorry.
Bob actually also works with Next Step Energy, and
As a grant writer, part-time.
so next. So back to the first example. This has been installed for over 3 years, but we have energy produced from 2010. That's 13,000 kilowatts in 2010, 12,000 kilowatts in 2011. An average Wisconsin home on an annual basis uses 7,200 to 9,600 kilowatt hours annually. So you can see it's producing well above what an average Wisconsin home. I didn't have the electrical uses for this project, for this home. I'm not sure what their range is. It may be a little bit above. Next slide. This was the installed cost in 2009 at $76,000. They had focus on energy and tax credit, brought it down to $57,319. We're looking at just the solar electric. They have solar hot water. I'm not going to focus on that for this. Next, another project in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, more recent. Next. This is showing a year's worth of energy. The purple line that says 5 kW solar shows how much the solar has produced throughout the year. And the way solar electric works is this is a grid-tied system. So there's an agreement with the utility that this property is producing power. When they produce more power than they use, for example, in the months of September through June, they sell that power back to the electric company and get a credit on their energy bill. Even despite the spike in May, I think they ended up for this year zeroing out their electric bill. Next. Go ahead.
What's the reason for the spike in May?
I think they had electrical construction on the site. They had some contractors out doing some work. The cost of it in 2010 is lower, and it's $37,000 with a focus on energy incentive. Focus on energy incentives are much different than they are at this time, but at that time they got $8,000 and a federal tax credit, which is still effective. They got $9,000. The homeowner refinanced their mortgage and they leveraged the solar system against the refinancing of the home. So they came out really pretty smart, actually. Their solar system's paid for. Next. Here's an example on the East Hill of Eau Claire. It's a smaller system. It's been up for a longer period of time, 5 years. It had a higher installed cost at the time it went in. Next. So it's a little bit over a kilowatt for $13,000, and you can see it's sort of floating above this roof. We didn't have the roof slope facing south, so we angled the solar with a funky rack, and that's why it ended up being a little cost per kilowatt. Typically in the industry, just a note on cost per kilowatt, that's how we talk about how much a solar system costs. So you want to watch that number. That's about 1 kilowatt, and they paid that amount for it. That would be pretty high right now for a system. But now we'd probably just put the panels on and have them faced west rather than do this, because the price of panels has come down quite a bit. Next. Just some data on that. Over 5 years they use electricity, about just shy of 18,000 kilowatt hours. Of that they purchased just shy of 14,000. The lifetime production of the PV system over that is a little less than 50% of their system. And it's divided up by power that's sold back and power that's used by their electrical load. And again, that's how PV electric works, is if you have a draw in your house, if you have the television on and the sun is shining, it's going to go right in there. If it's off and there's no need for it, it's going to go right back to the grid and you're going to get a credit. So nothing wasted. The grid is really your, in place of batteries, there's no batteries in this system. The grid is really your battery, and it stores all of your power is used around through the grid. Next. This is a pretty fancy chicken house in Deer Park, Wisconsin. And the customers had a larger electric load. He has a workshop that he runs and not a small house, and they wanted to have energy independence, so they did this 14 kilowatt system. Each panel is about 250 watts. So a collection of 4 panels gives you the 1 kilowatt system. Next. So they're producing more on this site than they use, and they're selling back a lot of it to the grid, right? And they were just under $70,000 installed. They had their tax credit. I don't think there wasn't focus on energy money for this. It's a 14 kilowatt system, so it'd be how's your math? 68 divided by 14. Price per kilowatt. I'm just going to do it for myself. I'm sorry. So about $4,850 per kilowatt. Installed price. Next.
Does the installation price include how much the individual panels are?
Yes, it's the whole system.
Everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. This is a drawing. It hasn't been built yet, and it has some numbers that were pretty interesting to us. The solar system's large. It's on a historic barn, and it serves to power 3 homes that are on the property. They're all on the same meter. So I put together some figures on the next slide. This is a total of a 22 kilowatt system, and in the second, you'll see solar electric system rated module capacity 22. Below that it says estimated output year 1, 26,400 kilowatt hours per year. You'll see there's 2 things going on there. There's a rating at 22, which would be 22,000 kilowatts, and then 26,400. There's 12 months in the year. It produces more than the nameplate. If you have similarly, if I'm explaining stuff that's basic, stop me. But if you have a 100-watt light bulb that runs for 10 hours, that's 1,000 watts, so or 1 kilowatt. The installed cost was $92,840. Cost per kilowatt is lower. It's $4,220. Federal tax credit. There's a Dun Energy grant. They're on Dun Energy, so they also get this. If you're on Dun Energy, they have a feed-in tariff, which is higher than your net metering rate. In other words, if you pay 12 cents to buy your electricity, Dun Energy will buy your solar electric back for 20 cents. So it's pretty good. 12 years to cost recovery. Also known as payback. We get asked a lot about the payback, being solar people naturally, and there's other ways to think about it. One I like to use is where it says at the very bottom, initial rate, or we'll just call it return on investment, or ROI. If you get an IRA, say, and you invest it for 12 years, whatever percent return on investment. This is 8%, just under 8% return on investment. That's pretty good. That's pretty solid compared to stock market and how much we've seen Wall Street fluctuate. So your money's put away for a while. You could think of it that way. And you got green energy. You're not hurting the environment. It provides energy independence. A lot of values in it. Last slide. So does solar energy work in Wisconsin? Yes, it does. And we'd like to really grow and be a leader for the rest of the country, because right now the rest of the country is a little bit behind, and we're going to go through some transitions, and we can hedge against rising prices of fuel. We can a hedge against carbon footprint. A lot of reasons to be involved in solar, and I'd like to have questions. So the rest, it's a short slideshow, so I just hope that people be here to throw stones at me, basically. I should keep the mic.
As long as you have questions to answer.
Okay. Yes?
Does it make more sense to do a system on an existing structure or to build it freestanding? Is there benefits or drawbacks to either one?
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat the question because this is just a record for his camera. The question was, are there benefits to do it on an existing roof as opposed to a freestanding? One benefit is that installing on an existing roof, if the conditions are correct, you don't have the added cost of concrete that you need. These systems are designed to last 40 years and produce power over that time. So all the components that are there are pretty permanent. There's aluminum, there's stainless steel, and concrete. So it depends on the site conditions, really, which one really works better. Yes.
Have you installed solar panels on homes where people have moved and then maybe tried to sell their home and then the next person doesn't value the solar panels as much as they do? And so have you seen that before? Or
We haven't seen it in, it's a good question. The question has to do with when a home sales happen, does the value of the system stay with the solar? And in California, we've seen that it's been very consistent. There's a study that we're using. Wisconsin's got some catching up to do as far as studies with that, but the value of the homes have actually increased with having solar electric systems on them. Thanks, everybody.
This program was recorded and presented by Chippewa Valley Community Television. Chippewa Valley Community Television is made possible by continuing community support. If you'd like to volunteer or make a donation, you can contact us by calling 715-839-5067 or on the web at www.cvctv.org.